I want to welcome you to the first program of the new season of the Charleston Jung Society. Our presentation is to bear witness and to commemorate the 10th anniversary of 9/11. And I hope we'll provide a time for deep reflection by us all and touched by these events. We're honored to have as our speaker, presenter Terry Helwig. She shares with us her powerful, soulful work, Thread Project, One World, One Cloth. Terry studied transpersonal psychology at Europa University in Boulder, Colorado, later graduated with an MA in counseling psychology from the College of New Jersey. Earlier in her career, she studied Jungian psychology, worked with dreams, lectured and led workshops for women on personal growth and spiritual development. Her writings have appeared in Spirituality and Health, guideposts, and other publications. And in the aftermath of 9/11, Terry worried the world was worried that the world was hanging by a thread. And in the aftermath, she explored the symbolism of the thread and came to the conclusion that a slender thread was no small thing. In fact, just the opposite. It seemed to be an archetype of creation, the fabric of life. She began the Thread Project by creating a website and inviting people worldwide to send a single thread as a way to symbolically weave tolerance and compassion into the world. Tens of thousands of threads, from lace to fishing lines, poured in from people on every continent. Terry also wrote a one-act play, co-wrote it, The Thread Narrative, which debuted in 2007 at the Thread Project exhibition in Charleston as a way to share some of the symbolism and heartfelt stories woven into the world cloths. I'm delighted that those of you who are here have come. I know that you're going to be moved and challenged by the things that Terry is going to say tonight. We always begin by sharing that the Charleston Jung Society is a gathering of people from many different backgrounds and professions who seek to provide a forum for the ideas of C.J. Jung. Our mission is to encourage personal growth and the development and exploration of the ways to understand Jungian psychology, how it can affect our lives and the community. We wholeheartedly welcome and honor a rich diversity, this is from our statement, of disciplines, races, genders, and sexual orientations, as well as religious, spiritual, and secular beliefs and ideologies. In fact, we believe that varying perspectives are necessary for the expansion of consciousness and the cultivation of awareness. We are therefore committed to this all-embracing discussion in a dynamic interchange which listens and learns from the whole community. Tonight, of course, we remember the 10th anniversary of the day that nearly 3,000 victims were killed by two airliners crashing into the World Trade Center and another hitting the Pentagon, and a fourth crashing into a field in rural Pennsylvania. The devastating number of casualties includes firefighters, police officers from NYC, Port Authority, private emergency, and medical technicians, and many paramedics who came to help. According to the New York Times, August 9th of this year, they say at least 10,000 firefighters, police officers, and civilians exposed to the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center have been found to have post-traumatic stress disorder and in a kind of mass grieving. Many of them have yet to recover. These figures gathered by three 9/11 health programs in New York City. In 2001, the barrage of bruising images from that fateful day has imprinted and pained and wounded our collective psyches. And the killing of innocent, unarmed people has touched the hearts of this nation and brought on, I think, universal feelings of sadness. Our country has been forever changed. We didn't know where to turn from the losses of this magnitude, I think. And we also don't know how to deal with 9/11 still, I think. We feel angry and insecure, and yet it was a time when people that I knew showed monumental courage in the face of deep grief. Feelings of all these sacred moments are a marker, I think, but not an end, and our time to commemorate and consider I was on the scene myself personally when the planes flew into the World Trade Center. And over the years, I reflected on the psychological trauma brought about by that tragic day, September 11, 2001. I was on the Staten Island ferry going off to my office in Manhattan. And as we sailed along, I called my wife on the cell phone and I said, honey, there's smoke coming out of one of the World Trade Centers. Turn on the television and see what the story is. And all of a sudden, another plane flew over my head and banked. We were just pulling into Manhattan, banked and crashed into the World Trade Center. This other one. And it was a huge gasp because all of our cell phones went out at that moment. And we were docking, and we couldn't dock. We had to back around by Governor's Island, or the Brooklyn side, if you know what that is. And by the time we got around Governor's Island, the second tower that we hit, the first tower fell, and everybody just, it was incredible emotion, incredible emotion. Everybody on board was screaming and crying. And I went back to my parish church. In addition to being a Jungian analyst, I'm an Episcopal priest. I'm director of St. John's Church, Staten Island. And I began to ring the church bell. People from all over the neighborhood began to gather. And they came and filled the church for about half an hour. Each day, early in the morning, several paramedics would come to the rectory, distraught with the terrible things they'd seen. One, for example, was so distraught, torn up, that he left being a paramedic in New York City to go and be a paramedic in Poconos, where you can treat people with skiing accidents. Seemed a better way to go. For several days, several of us priests would go to the site of the World Trade Center, Ground Zero as it's called, and St. Paul's Chapel, and talk to the young National Guard soldiers and to the medics and to the relief workers, and just be there with them in their incredible suffering. All in all, it was a defining moment, I think, of archetypal proportions in my life and probably in many other lives. Jungian analyst Samuel Kimball's, in an essay, described 9/11 as a narcissistic blow to the American psyche, which exposed many to a new level of collective and personal vulnerability. It was this event and the subsequent counseling sessions that I had with listeners and Alisans and just people who sought me out, taught me what collective trauma was. During the days that followed, the EMS workers would come by, as I suggested, and share, and it was very, very difficult. And the night of 9/11, we had a service, impromptu service of prayer and penitence, and the church was absolutely packed. Believe me, that rarely happened at St. John's. So I completely understand the reaction to the trauma on the part of the firefighters and the EMS people and the paramedics. As Greg Mogensen has said, and he's another Jungian analyst, he wrote, a trauma by definition is an overwhelming and for the most part outside the available parameters of experience. A traumatic event is not pushed out of awareness, rather it is too big to register in awareness. Coping with trauma requires the recovery of hope. And connecting to that hope, to achieving goals with the individual capacity and plans for the future is important. Coping with trauma is also needs to make sense of evil. C.J. Jung, as you well know, was preoccupied with the problem of evil, as have theologians and philosophers and trauma sufferers for all ages. And recovery of hope, I think, requires three things. One, finding meaning. Two, developing a sense of a benevolence in the world. And three, cultivating a feeling of self-worth. I think benevolence, the number two, is essential. One of my favorite American psychologists, Paul Poisey, of many kind, believed that hoping is based on the belief that there's something benevolent, there's some benevolent disposition toward oneself somewhere in the universe. These elements, I think, are required to overcome trouble. Now tonight, Terry is going to help us understand, I believe, what it is to find threads of hope and goodwill and a way to heal trauma in the dark days. It's my hope that tonight's presentation will inspire us, move us to a sense of unity, the very core of our humanity. This may be the 10th anniversary of a terrible tragedy. May it bring us change and a new consciousness and a new beginning and a soul-healing experience. No one person, no one thread tells the whole story. But drawn together, we can find a new point of meaning and healing. Let us pray that as we begin this anniversary of remembrance, what burdens us will fall away, and we may receive some rich blessing in our life. At that point, for that, we welcome Terry to our program.
Thank you very much, John, for that introduction and that moving account, eyewitness account. And I just think it's remarkable that you had the presence of mind to go in and start ringing the church bells. Obviously, that reached down and touched people on a very deep level. This is quite an honor for me tonight to be here, to be able to talk about a project that was inspired by 9/11, and to do it on the eve of the anniversary. That is even more meaningful to me. I can't think of another way that I personally would like to remember this time. And also to be part of a group of Jungians with the philosophy and looking at the inner life. Jung's work on dreams and myths and symbols has always been very important to me, and it's really guided my personal and my professional path for the last 30 years. So it's quite an honor to be talking to a group interested in Jung's ideas. And also because I knew that I was talking to this group, I thought I would focus more on the symbolism and the myth that underlies this project than I normally would, because I think that points out perhaps the way there was resonance for me and others would be on an archetypal and collective level. Before I get started, I want to point out these are pictures, these canvases of actual panels that were woven as part of the Thread project. And during the break, you can look at the one in the back. I'm sorry I couldn't bring the real thing, but I brought the next best thing, these panels. And also, at the end of this evening, if you would like to take a catalog of the project, they're on the back table. It's one of these, and you're welcome to take that with you if you like. Take it home. Currently, the Thread project is being exhibited here at the Temple of Peace in Independence, Missouri. And the cloths have been hanging here for 2 years, and they're going to remain here until we find a permanent home for the cloths. It's quite an ambitious project to mount all of these cloths and exhibit them. So that became too much for me, so they've been here. And I chose this particular church because they really work hard to promote peace. They have art projects, and again, behind them, Art Peace. They give tours to the public. And they also, since 1995, they've offered a daily prayer for world peace. And they have not missed a day in 16 years. So there was a lot of integrity in this. I put the insert to the right of that photo because that is the inside of the spire of the church, and it was meant to look like a nautilus shell. And also the thought behind that was that this looks like a flame reaching up. So a lot of nice things about this church. What I hope to do tonight is to tell the visual story of how this single thread, this is what the project began with, turned into these 7 world claws. Now each of these claws measures 14 feet long, or 14 feet wide, and 7 feet long. And if they were in here, they would be taking up 84 linear square feet. So it does encompass quite a large area. Donna, come on up and grab a seat. Welcome. I've organized my talk tonight to talk about the conception of the project, the symbolism behind it, and the history of the project. Now, I have to say, on the conception of the project, it happened, I was just visiting Lincoln Center a year before 9/11, and I was with my husband. And I feel like I had the idea of the Thread project before its time. It almost seemed, we rounded the corner at the Lincoln Center, and I just sort of bumped into this idea of Thread, and I thought, wouldn't it be something if people around the world would take a 12 to an 18-inch piece of thread and tie it to somebody else's thread, and tie it to somebody else's thread. And I thought, would this be to show our common thread of humanity, or would this be about taking something as simple as a thread and how it's so slender and so insignificant, but when we all put that slender thing together, that it would create something rather remarkable. And so I'm telling my husband, Jim, who's sitting right up here in the front row, I started to tell him about my idea. And I love Jim because he's my anchor. And he said, well, how would you get the word out? And I'm going, oh, I don't know. And he goes, well, what would you do with all these threads when you got them? And I thought, I don't know. And I thought, that's probably not such a good idea. But then, 9/11 happened. And I know this picture evokes so much emotion in all of us, and I don't think any of us will forget where we were or what we were doing when we saw these images. I'm an INFP on the Myers-Briggs, and that pretty much makes me an eternal optimist. But that night, I went to bed despairing, and this is what I felt like. I felt like our world was hanging by a thread. And then, when I thought about that thread, I just thought, oh, thread. I thought of that idea that I had a year earlier, and I thought, it seemed like a tattered thread of hope to me suddenly. And I thought, what would happen if I tied my tattered thread of hope to your tattered thread of hope, and to your tattered thread of hope? And I wondered what we could create from that, just to start. And so I cut this thread. And I'll have to say, this seemed like a very puny response to what happened on 9/11. And still, though, something that it just compelled me. It wouldn't leave me alone. And I thought, what is it about thread? And I thought, it has to be something archetypal. And sometimes what happens to me, I certainly work with my dreams, but if a symbol comes to me in waking life, then I take that waking moment and work on it as if it were a dream. And so I thought, all right, I am going to approach this like a dream. And so I set off to research spinning and the thread symbolism. And I was not disappointed. In his book, Man and His Symbols, Jung writes, an image is symbolic when it implies something more than its obvious and immediate meaning. It has a wider, unconscious aspect that is never precisely defined or fully explained. As the mind explores the symbol, it is led to ideas that lie beyond the grasp of reason. And that's what I was experiencing. I was attracted to this beyond the grasp of reason. We had moved to the Charleston area. I was going to be doing my internship and really get into counseling. And this thread I started following this thread. It seemed crazy. Now I want to point out on this picture, this spinner, in her right hand, she is holding what is called a yarn winder or a distaff. And that's important for thread. I just want to point it out because we'll be coming back to it. And in her left hand, she's holding a spindle. Gandhi believed in the power of thread. And this is Gandhi and his spinning wheel. And as most of you probably know, Gandhi started spinning for political reasons. And he believed that India could be liberated from British rule if it would spin its own cotton and weave it into cloth, so they would not have to buy British-made cloth. And in the process of doing this for political reasons, it also became Gandhi's spiritual practice. There is something about the spinning and the weaving that is very meditative. Humans learned to spin thousands of years ago, and it is no small thing. One scholar called the advent of spinning the Steam Revolution, equating it with the Industrial Revolution. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with fairy tales that incorporate spinning into it. And usually when this happens, some magical boundary is crossed. And I think that's because spinning takes the formless. If you look at the slide, that's just fur up there. It could be just wool that's been from the sheep. And something starts to happen and it comes into form. And so it appears that something is created from nothing. Rumpelstiltskin spun straw into gold. Another fairy tale has 3 spinners coming to the aid of a maiden, and they help her spin a room of flax so she can marry the prince. Sleeping Beauty pricked her finger on a spindle and slept 1,000 years. And again, you'll be seeing the distaff and the spindle, and I have some other pictures of art where you'll be seeing that. In addition, the loom was also an amazing invention because it could miraculously weave these threads into something that was called fabric. And fabric is a metaphor in itself. One of the definitions of fabric is that it is the essential structure or essence of a thing, which we say the fabric of society. And so truly on 9/11, it created a gaping hole in the fabric of our society. And it was so large, and I think this was what John was pointing to of the trauma in our psyche. And not only us, but people around the world mourned this loss and this gaping hole. And so it seemed to me that thread maybe could symbolically mend part of this tear that was happening. And this idea resonated deeply in me, and I was aware of creation myths that also